everyone, welcome to the weekly SEO. Hi, and I have an amazing guest today. Sergio Bulax is with us today. Hi, Juliana. How are you?
Hello, Busra. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really fine. It's the final work day of the week. It's Friday, and it's hopefully a sunny Friday in Turkey, and I'm so happy about it. How about you?
Yes, it's good. I'm in Barcelona, and it's quite sunny here today. Actually, I was out in a t-shirt and shorts earlier, so it's not bad weather for October. Nearly Halloween too.
I really love Barcelona. You can leave me there, and I can live on the streets of Barcelona.
You should come visit.
I was there last May, but if you want, I can come next year. I don't know. If if I visit Barcelona, I would definitely want to have a coffee with you in person.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm. Yes, we talked about this. Yeah, you were in Barcelona. I was in Barcelona, but we must have just not missed. We must have missed each other on that day, on that evening. So.
Yeah, and probably because of the event, there was a lot of food, there was a lot of action going on if you were there.
Yeah, that's true.
So people are starting to come, and I'm gonna just show my classic banner of the each week. If you have any questions, guys, feel free to ask from the chat box. We will be happy to answer your questions at the end of the speech. We will have a Q&A session, a few minutes. So if you have any questions, please ask, because today's topic is so important for the remote working agencies, and probably you will have some questions. And hi, Gökay. We can start if you want slowly, because people will come in a few minutes.
Okay, sure. Well, then I will share my screen as then. I just want to say before I start, thank you very much, Bosna, for inviting me on the weekly SEO YouTube event that you have, and hello to everyone that is joining live or will watch it afterwards. I really hope that you enjoy some of the tips, and feel free to, as Buzzer said, message me, ask questions, or you can contact me at SEO Joe Blogs afterwards too. So I will start
Hi,
sharing.
Eliza.
Oh, sorry for that. Let me just go file. Oh, sorry, view slideshow. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we're good to go.
Okay, great. Well, I can see the screen, but no one else. So yeah, if there is anything that you cannot see, please shout out. So thank you very much, Buzzer, for having me today, where I'll be talking about how to build relationships when remote working. These are tips that you can also implement as well in your personal life, so you don't need to just restrict it to work. A few tips about me. My name is Juliana Turnbull. I'm a freelance marketing consultant in Barcelona, Spain, and I've been working in SEO since about 2008. I've worked in Australia, London, and now in Barcelona. And I'm also the organizer of Search London, so we're going to have one in to celebrate our 12th birthday, Q1 of next year. And I was also a runner-up in a couple of awards, which I was really pleased about too. So some fun facts about me. I'm SEO Joe Blogs because I've been working in SEO and I blog. I've lived and moved to 9 different countries, so I have a lot of experience about relationship building. I've also been remote working off and on since about 2010 because I always wanted to work in a place that I chose to. We moved around a lot and I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in one place. I have a twin sister. There she is. Hello, Ruth. That was on my wedding day. We had a very, very, very small occasion. And she flew in from Australia, and I hadn't seen her for 3.5 years. And she came for 9 days. So yeah, I was really pleased. And so there we are with my hubby, my husband, Gonzalo. He is from Bolivia, and we will go and see his family early next year. Another fun fact is I take part in fun races, so I hope that it's sunny on Sunday because I'm running a race again. So today, what are we going to what are we going to cover? I want to really assess about sort of negative relationships and what makes a good relationship. We'll talk about the interpersonal skills or soft skills, why they are important and the elements of them, and then practical tips to improve these skills. Because this is the key thing to then be able to build relationships when remote working. It's especially important when remote. Oh, that's a little bit big, but I've just repeated myself. So let's pass through to the next one. So remote working is here to stay. This is an article actually from the BBC, and I've got a list of different sources that I have that you can look at afterwards. And basically there's obviously many countries that are doing remote working. Out of this study that I found from IFOP, it was actually the highest percentage of people were from Germany, actually. 51% were working remote at least once a week. And France was the least at 29%. I only have stats around the Italians, British, and in Spain. No Turkey yet, but I do hope we get more of these types of surveys to cover a lot more countries. So I want to talk about this building of relationships and making sure we understand interpersonal skills and how they affect ourselves, how affect the relationships, because we are working longer. And there's quite a few different surveys that I found and studies that were saying that people are working longer than before the pandemic. There was actually one by a team building company in the UK where they actually had 55% of UK employees were expected to work outside the regular hours. And they asked 133 companies, and 44% of those people, they said that their workload had increased, which is terrible to see. And other studies shown, there's one by Microsoft, and they had people working at least 2.5 hours per day. So basically between an extra 10 and sort of 15 hours per week, which is really not acceptable. I just want to ask a question before we go in. Can everyone see this one? It says dejar tu de compartir, this bit. Can you see this?
Yes.
I will just ocultar. So, okay, yep. Sorry. So that's better. Apologies for that. So basically we're working in some countries in a more remote fashion. We're working longer, unfortunately. As I said about that study, actually it was a study in September 2021. Apologies, I didn't say that before. And they actually interviewed 61,000 Microsoft employees, and they found that they were working 10% longer each week. So that is not what we should be tolerating. And therefore, we have even less time to have any negative relationships. Why would you have a negative relationship? What are the reasons behind it? A lot of times it's poor communication. People are not clear. They're not transparent what they're doing. That's when you get people stabbing people in the back, going behind them. Competition. Clearly, there are some job roles that are not defined. So there is competition between employees, which should not be the case. Sometimes people are too friendly in the office. You think that someone is your best friend, or maybe there's a bit of a, office romance, and you might get involved, and then you become annoyed when perhaps they haven't done you favors at work, or they mistreated you at work, and you take that. There's that line crossed. Lack of respect is another one. If you're not feeling heard, if you're not feeling valued, if people aren't valuing your time, you're always the one chasing for work. If you're always the one doing maybe the grunt, the junior work, and you're senior and you've never been given senior responsibility, but you've been there a long time, these are all different elements of what forms a negative relationship. This is another one, bad managers. So according to Gallup, actually, 50% of people leave their job because of a bad manager, not because of the job themselves. So this is very, I'm very surprised. Well, I'm not surprised, but I'm very saddened to see something like that, because you might enjoy your job, but you know, your manager is making it very difficult for you. So what makes a good relationship? These are all the things that I said, what makes a negative relationship. So this is what we want in a good relationship, and very important when we build these relationships, remote working, and of course, in our personal life too. A big part of this, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, is on interpersonal skills or soft skills. But what are these? It's really how you interact with other people. I realized that school, we had a lot of exercises, how to build your interpersonal skills, what you should be doing outside of work. We had to do many things, charity or volunteering. We had to be doing things like first aid. We had to be taking part in exhibition, cross-trekking in the country. There were so many things we had to do on top of school to build these interpersonal skills. And that did help you to see different viewpoints and help you to get along with others. But I found maybe since leaving academia, and that was school until 18, often this is not addressed. And this is something that should be, because it's really important for work and your personal life. Now, these are the 5 different interpersonal skills that we're going to talk about today. I found this from Psych Central. There were a few other ones as well. And of course, there's far more in other sources, but these are the ones that resonated a lot with myself, what I've experienced, and these are the ones that we'll go through today. But feel free, of course, to look at more interpersonal skills. So we're going to go through the first one, emotional intelligence. Now, I really like this term. This one actually was described as social intelligence, actually back in the 1920s by a psychologist called Edward Thorndike. And I think that sums it up quite well, because it is like how you interact. So there's 5 elements of emotional intelligence. And one of them is self-awareness. And that really is key. It's aware of your effect of your mood on other people, your effect of your behavior, your emotions. Self-regulation is you recognize those triggers. You recognize what sets you off, what makes you mad and annoyed or whatever, puts you in a bad mood. And you can regulate that yourself. That is very important. Motivation. This is something that's about you wanting to be a better person and grow. It's not necessarily like, oh, I need to do this because of fame or money. It's about really growing yourself on a personal level. Empathy is a key aspect of emotional intelligence, and this increases your attentiveness and it teaches you how to be patient. Now, if you can demonstrate empathy, then people will really feel safe talking to you. And this is so important in a team, and especially important when you're a leader of that team. Social skills, obviously, very important, how you get on with other people. Communication is the second part of interpersonal skills, and this is as important as emotional intelligence. So I'm going to go through 7 of them. As I mentioned, there's a lot of detail that I've put at the end of the presentation, and it will be available for everyone to use afterwards. So there's 7 C's of communication, and this was set up or coined back in 1952. And I will go through them now. So clear, correct, complete, concrete, concise, duration, and courteous. Now, a lot of those elements do tie back also into respect, if you may have noticed that. If you cannot remember all of them, remember concise, and also be clear and be consistent with your communication with people. The third aspect, emotional intelligence. Empathy. I was thinking about the first one. So this is really important. As I said earlier, it helps, to build trust, and it helps not only the team, but it helps you as well. There's a lot of different studies that I've also found about how it is the most important leadership skill. This one actually came from Forbes back in 2021. I'm sure we have further studies that will come out that it's the most important skill in leadership. Active listening. Now, active listening really is, as the word says, being active in your listening. It is a very key element of communications. And I was actually surprised that this actually was coined back in 1962. I had not heard of it that much before, but I have seen more of it being spoken about in the past couple of years since the pandemic started. So how can you be an active listener? You need to pay attention to the speaker, must understand what they're talking about, don't have the glazed eyes. Retain that information, okay, process it, then provide a thoughtful response. So something simple like, did you have a good weekend, will be a yes/no answer. If you have been actively listening to one of your colleagues and they have said, oh, I'm going away this weekend and I'm going to a new area that I've never been to, maybe into the mountains or whatever, why don't you ask them when they come back, how was the weekend in the countryside? Did you enjoy it? Was it great to connect with your family, see your friends? This shows that you have been listening to what they are been saying. Or also if they have said things like, oh, I'm worried about what's going to happen this weekend, I'm nervous about so-and-so, you can always pick up on that after the event or obviously help them before. A fifth element of interpersonal skills is confidence. This is actually really important in many aspects of work and also in our personal life. So I did this survey actually 2 years ago. You can see the date, actually 3. I did it for people that identify as female and male. These are the biggest votes. I did also do it for those that don't not identify with a gender, but I didn't get many results. I hope to run this again and get more. The summary is that I had a lot of male and female, nearly par and par, 50%, that do doubt themselves a lot, which I classified as once a day, and it does hold them back. And so that's quite a lot. And that's what we need to change. So I actually did this personality test. It's called the Clifton Strengths. And it's actually been used by 28.6 million people so far. And it's a test. It's a personality test. There's 34 different elements. You answer the questions and then you get an answer, obviously, and about what are your strengths. In the different boxes here you see. So strategic thinking, relationship building, influencing, and executing. And people that took these Clifton Strengths, they were 6 times as likely to be engaged in jobs, 6 times as likely to strongly agree that they had the opportunity of what they do best every day. That's quite a key one. Also, 3 times as likely to have an excellent quality of life. Well, who wouldn't want to do this? This, when I last checked, it was $50 US. It was very useful for me, and they have set up the online assessment since 1999. So EI and empathy. We're just going to talk about this. So emotional intelligence is about self-awareness, regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Empathy is one part of that. And empathy is the ability to understand and sense other people's emotions. But with emotional intelligence, you're managing the emotions in yourself and others, and then you're helping to use that to motivate other people. And it could be in a specific environment, for example, at work. Now, emotional intelligence. If you have a manager that has high emotional intelligence, this is what the study said. This is 15,000 employees. I'm sorry, it's just in the US, this study. I do hope to have more that represents a more diverse range of employees. They found that a person with their managers with a high EI, they felt 50% more inspired. That's great. Yeah. In their teams, 40% increase in productivity. Perfect. 400% retention rate. That's pretty good stats. But it is important this leads from the top. An example of office with high EI, whether remote or not, is people are not afraid to share their thoughts, to share their initiatives with others. People sit back and listen, and they give feedback, yeah, in the room. And the senior leaders come in and say, "Oh, thank you very much for offering that. How else can we support you in, developing this idea further?" A place where there's the no EI, people that are very afraid to say anything in meetings. They don't like to take the initiative, and they feel that they might be reprimanded for doing so. If you have a manager with a high EI, your employees will be less burnt out, and the employees feel that they have higher purpose and meaning in their work. I like this stat. Most managers will hire those with a high EI. And they actually value it higher than IQ. Imagine that. Because when I was younger, it was like, oh, you need to have a really high IQ. Well, I don't think I have a really high one, but this is great to see this stats. Empathy, again, must come from the top. And this is really important because it impacts the staff significantly, like with emotionally intelligent leaders. It impacts innovation, engagement, retention, inclusivity, and work life. Now, this was a study carried out by Catalyst. It was only of 900 people, again in the US. So apologies, we don't have a more diverse range. But what they found on this was that if a manager has high empathy, then 47% of those employees will be innovative at work. They'll be 67% engaged at work compared to 24%. If a senior leader has empathy, it also affects, as I said, burning out. So for women of color, it was 67% actually felt more burnt out if their manager had low empathy. And this was just about feeling respected and valued. And remember, if we go back to the beginning, we said, what is the reason for a negative relationship? Lack of respect. And how do you have a good relationship? Respect. So empathy directly impacts this. So here are some tips that you can implement. I'm going to go through these and think about your answer on this. So what's your answer for this emotional intelligence Lake Mini test? You have great listening skills. You can accept feedback. You can say no without feeling bad. You do not dwell on your mistakes. You share your emotions with others. Not trauma dumping, thank you. You're not afraid to make mistakes. Now, if you answered yes to all of those, you have high EI. Of course, this is not anything scientific. So, of course, you can do some tests yourself. Use mindtools.com and Psychology Today. In some companies, people do this 360 review. That's also a way of testing it. But of course, you can do these ones. Disabilities-based test. There's also a trait-based test, competency and behavior-based test. These ones are paid. I don't know how much they are, but you can always use these slides and find out the price and if you want to take them too. Communication tips. Now, remote working, it can be difficult to do open communication. I'm working with an agency and we have open communication and we have like a channel that's basically about daily meeting, your daily work that you're doing. If you are stuck and you're waiting for someone else to help you, you can write in that and say, oh, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Oh, blockers, I'm unable to move past for X and Y. Yeah, it's better to do things in that sort of environment rather than to maybe keep chasing someone. It's also really important that you have different channels for different clients if you're working, or different areas of your company as well if you're working client side. I would still engage in this chit chat. So that's like, what you did on the weekend. You can have like a channel for that. We have one too. You can, things that you want to be asking people about. What are you doing? What did you do last weekend? What are your plans? Anything exciting that maybe you're doing outside of work, maybe you're studying part-time, or you're engaging in a triathlon, things like that. It's time zone as well, so it depends again where you are, but don't put meetings in like really so convenient for me, like 9 a.m. when your colleague's like 4 hours behind, and that's obviously really early for him or her. And the same the other way, going east, like don't always make things okay EU time, and then your colleagues in Australia, well, I can't attend that, and that would be great to attend that event, but it's too late. Please also engage in active listening, and we'll go through those tips as well. And be aware of your own emotions and manage them. If you're say to your boss, oh, I'm not feeling so well today, I might, excuse my behavior, or you might say, oh, apologies for acting that way. Just own up to it. It's fine. Empathy tips. So really, this is about being curious. I also want to say that it's not sympathy. Sympathy is more like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. So should we do something else? No, like don't try and turn away the subject. You try and be in that person's shoes. If something is not very good, you can say it like, well, yeah, that's a pretty bad situation. Let me see, what can I do to help? If you want to do it at, let's say at work, if someone had a bad presentation, you can actually say, hey, I know you didn't think that you had good feedback from that presentation, or you felt you didn't. Why don't we work together on that for you? Another way you can increase or improve your empathy is to work on a shared cause. This could be like fundraising, or could be working on something that you've never worked before, or something you feel passionate about. Maybe building, growing trees, or sort of recycling efforts. But whatever you have, just omit any bias that you have. So if you're maybe always the one getting promotions, and you know that your colleague, you have a good relationship with him or her, is getting sort of left off the sideline, make sure that you say, look, I've had it really, I got my promotions, that's great, and raise the other person up. It's important to always stand up for other people. So take action if you see that. Don't stay to your normal clique if you are one. I find if you move around a lot in the world, you don't have a clique because you're always from somewhere else. So everywhere is always a new place, and you always have new perspectives. But try and do, when you're at work, this probably might not apply, but definitely this is what you do in your own home life. If you're growing up in the same area that you've been to school at, and so you live in the same place that you've grown up in, maybe try and branch out and talk to a different group of people. Try and work on a different interest if you want to. But that's the way you could build your empathy. Listening tips. I'll run through these. This one, tone of voice and body language. I just say you can still see this in a Zoom. Think about that someone might not be that engaged. They might be looking away, or they might just be sort of, back in their chair. The important thing with active listening is to be present and be engaged. And this helps to build that trust and rapport. You can record how long you're speaking versus other people. That's always a good thing to do. You can do it from this, nobody needs to know that. And you can see who are the people talking the most, and who are the people listening the most, or who is not listening, who hasn't listened to what you said. Demonstrate concern. So if someone is not having a good day, see if you can help them, and paraphrase and asking these open-ended questions. That means not the yes, no type one. So how can I help you? What would you like me to do for you? I would like to do X, Y, and Z to help you solve the problem, and so on. Really active listening is building someone else up. It's like a trampoline effect. That's what it should be. They should be feeling good about themselves. Don't be dismissive, and don't try and just wait till they finish what they say. And like, oh gosh, I've got all this to talk about. This is what happened to me. No. So please avoid trying to get that agenda into the conversation. Just doing this whole nodding thing. And then, as I said just before, just dismissing. And of course, trauma dumping. So this is personal life and work life. Sometimes people just say a lot, and it's okay to say, but don't use that person all the time to help solve your problems. If you need to talk to someone, there's a lot of other, professionals to talk to, psychologists, but don't use work as a way to help solve your problems, or use the friend or colleague as a therapist. Confidence. So I'd really recommend you do this, the Clifton Strengths. Get a mentor as well. So this was part of the Women in Tech SEO group. I am as well. This is what I really like from Oprah about how it allows you to see the hope inside yourself. So please have a look at or join Women in Tech SEO that's been set up by Arij. Look for a mentor on LinkedIn or at networking events, virtual as well. If something is not working in terms of a relationship, that's fine. Just be aware of the key warning signals. I call this INU, instinct, no value, and unbalanced. So it's really important to trust your instinct. If it's not working, it's not working. Normally, maybe you have been dismissive about that before, but really we don't have time to ignore our gut feeling. No, if it's not working, you need to put an end to it. But just make sure that you have, the evidence for that, and always maintain your dignity. Doesn't matter what someone says, and doesn't matter what situation it is. It's how you react to that people will remember. And I like this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Keep this in mind as well. If you think that someone is making you feel, she or he is making me feel really bad. No. They're not allowed to do that. Only you are allowed to do this. You are taking the control. What did we talk about a good relationship? Yes, trust, respect, self-awareness, inclusion, and open communication. This is really important. Soft skill, it is a top priority for employers, and it's becoming more so. But these are they're looking for these elements: communication, teamwork, and problem solving. But the biggest gap is in a lot of these areas too. So build up on your skills. It's really important to spend time doing it for yourself. And then you can take these skills and build up, great relationships as well in your personal life. So thank you very much for having me on the show today. If you'd like to be in contact with me, just message me at SEO Joe Blogs.
Wow, that was a really insightful presentation. That was really cool for me. Thank you so much for this brilliant presentation. I also strongly believe that lack of empathy in the managers is a little bit problematic for all of the team structure of remote working agencies. If we don't understand our employees, if we don't try to build a relation of trust and clear communication, it will also cause the employers to have habits like procrastination maybe, or anxiety, and it's so stressful to work in an environment like that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Sorry about the technical thing, unsharing the screen. Yeah, so I'm glad that now people are doing a little bit more about this social skills, but as I said in the presentation, like, you can use some of these to in your personal life too. But the biggest thing is really open communication, I found, and respect. And that's, as I said, both in your personal life, in remote working, and in your professional life, in remote working too.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And if you have any questions, you can ask from the chat box, or you can communicate with Juliana on SEO Job Blogs on Twitter. You can send messages to her. And thank you so much, Juliana, for this really good presentation. In my opinion, every candidate of every remote worker and a candidate, manager candidate for a remote working team should definitely watch this presentation again.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And thanks very much, everyone, for joining. I see quite a few people have joined now. So, yes, it's been great. And there's also, of course, Brighton SEO that's taking place today. And there's lots of other events end of this month and next. So I appreciate you tuning in.
Yes, I will definitely tune in. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Yes.
And good luck in your Q&A session in Brighton SEO.
Thank you very much. See you later.
See you. Bye.
Bye.